It's Monday, and you know what that means. Welcome to ThroneZone Season 3, Episode 4. It's a little confusing because they're jumping time, we're jumping episodes. So this is your captain speaking along with Sir Daniel of House Crimmins once again. We're now 7 episodes into House of the Dragon, and more and more shit just seems to hit the fan as the weeks go by.
And more do I feel sympathy for Viserys.
Yeah, he's a really sympathetic character. I mean, he always has been, really, right from the beginning.
He just wants everybody to get along.
Yeah, that was pretty much what he said at the end of last night's episode. Can we all just get along?
But wow, what we finally got to see Vhagar, which
Oh, Vhagar is something else. That's a spectacle of a dragon.
oh yeah,
I don't
and
think episode 6 didn't really do his size justice because because it was so dark. But last night's episode 7, Vhagar compared to Aemond, you see the sheer size of this dragon, where you actually need a climbing rope just to get on the saddle.
no, for everyone that doesn't know or that maybe isn't hip with the lore, Vhagar is the last dragon that was around for Aegon's conquest. He was originally ridden by Queen Visenya Targaryen, who was
Yeah,
Aegon's older sister, I believe. So
it's
he,
confusing because they keep recycling names.
Vhagar is at this point fully grown, and to kind of give a size difference, people think Drogon was fully grown. No. Drogon was still a baby.
Yeah, and he wasn't even half the size of Vhagar.
No, Drogon's still growing, which maybe we see Drogon again in Snow in that series.
Yeah. What they have the opportunity to do with, I mean, they've begun doing it in House of the Dragon. Is fixing a lot of um, issues people had with season 8. They have more of an opportunity to do that with with Snow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Um,
that's kind of what they're going to do with Snow. Is I think they're going to. I think Snow is going to be the season 8 remake that everyone wanted, but we're not going to get. I think it's going to be fixing a lot of the mistakes.
yeah. Vhagar, so he's not only the last dragon of Aegon's conquest, he's also the biggest dragon still alive,
Oh
or the
yeah,
biggest dragon alive in Westeros.
we first saw Vhagar with Lena Valerian, and God, that scene was emotional. When you see
Yeah.
Vhagar didn't want to do it.
No, and that's the thing. Like, these dragons, they bond with their riders and they obey their commands. But I think she had to yell or try to yell Dracarys
Numerous
at
times.
least a dozen times.
And Vhagar is finally like, okay, if this is what you want.
I mean, he must have been able to see she was suffering, and he just thought, well, there's nothing else we can do, so she's gonna die either way.
Yeah. And it almost seemed like for a moment that Damon had like a human reaction, he in
He,
whatever way he has felt bad.
yeah, I mean, I remember way back with episode 1, we thought like Damon's the new villain of the Throneverse, but he has gone from villain to anti-hero to now I think he is just becoming the hero of the series.
We thought Damon was going to be the villain, and then Lara Strong said, "Hold my beer."
Right, Lara Strong is uh he doesn't even need to say a word, just his presence is villainous.
Exactly, and I don't think Alicent Hightower quite realized what she was dealing with, because the end of last week's episode, when Larys Strong basically told her what he did at Harrenhal, she's kind of like, I didn't tell you to do that. And he basically just said, when the time comes, I know you'll reward me.
Yeah, he was kind of like an evil genie. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
I mean, you can't put once that's out of the bottle, you ain't putting it back in.
No, and for him, he seemed to find it so easy too to burn his father and brother alive.
Oh yeah. And we got to see we finally got to see a couple strong boys in the episode, that whole thing.
Yeah, so episode 6 was kind of our introduction to the next generation of Targaryens and Valyrians and whatnot. They did a lot more in episode 7, and now we're gonna jump in time again, and I think this is the final time jump
I think
this
so.
season
I think
with
so.
episode 8.
And it was very well done, and you see Sir Kristen Cole still pretty bitter.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years have passed. Him and Alicent know how to hold a grudge.
Like, dude, get over it.
Like, you're the one that got a little carried away and, you know, puppy love.
I
But
mean, you had to know.
yeah, he was thinking of one thing, and it obviously wasn't his brain. And now he's pretty much Alicent's bitch.
Yeah.
Although he did kind of show a little initiative in last night's episode, so everything went wrong when the kids clashed in
Yeah.
episode 7. Pretty much, Aemond stole Vhagar,
Yeah.
who I forget which girl it was. I think it was Baela
Yeah,
or
it was
Rhaena.
supposed to be Bela's, but Bela never tried to claim her, never tried to claim Vhagar, and
Yeah, so Aemond, who didn't have a dragon and was constantly being teased about it by his own brother and everybody else, decides to claim the biggest dragon there is. He did it quite easily, to be fair to him. It was
which
almost as if Vhagar understood that he needed him.
why wouldn't you try and claim the biggest for yourself?
Right. I mean, he did come close. Like, you saw the fire rearing up in Vhagar's throat before Aemon started, yelling some commands. And Vhagar was like, well, okay. We'll see what you got. And he literally held on for dear life. Vhagar took off. Aemon was clinging on, soaring through the air. Finally touches back down and is confronted by the girls and his cousins. That's when the brawl breaks out, and Aemon ends up with a slashed eye.
Yeah.
And like, I understand Alicent wanting to protect her children, but to be just like, well, we'll take one of your son's eyes then. It's like, hold on, they're just kids.
And was it her wanting to protect her son, or was it still her hatred of Rhaenyra?
Yeah, just wanting to take a point against Rhaenyra too. But that's where she yells the command to Kristen Cole that he serves her, not the king. And for a brief moment, you thought, well, he has no choice; he has to obey her command. But then he very cleverly says, I'm not your hitman; I'm your bodyguard."
Yeah, which at that point, you're trying to murder the heir apparent to the throne. Like, I
Or
mean,
at least maim
obviously,
him.
we know that Alicent. But why didn't Viserys, like any other king in Game of Thrones? They would have had Alicent taken out. Robert Baratheon would have had her taken out right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a scene back in season 1 where Cersei spoke out over, the whole direwolves attacking Joffrey, and Robert was just reminding her of her place, so to speak.
Yeah. Like, you don't chastise the king like that. You don't do that.
No, and especially in front of pretty much the whole court.
Yeah, like she she cock blocked him in front of the public. Like you can't do that.
No. And when I mean, like we said, Viserys just wants peace. He's avoiding this confrontation. He tried to, put everything to bed and just say everybody needs to get along. So she decides to take matters into her own hands. She takes the cat's paw dagger, which I love the fact that we keep seeing, because of course it's the same one that was used in Game of Thrones. That was very, very relevant to Littlefinger. It was
Yeah.
him who gave it to the assassin that tried to kill Bran.
And also the same dagger that killed the Night King.
Yes, the same one Arya ended up with. So that dagger is scattered throughout Game of Thrones, and they keep showing it in House of Dragon. Now it finally gets used. This confrontation between Alicent and Rhaenyra, of course, has been building up through the season. It was one of the most looked forward to scenes of episode 7, and it was so intense.
Because in all the promo work before the series even aired, they kept showing her with that dagger.
Yeah. And then in the trailer, so after episode 6, in the trailer for this episode, we had that line from Rhaenyra saying, "Now everybody sees you for what you are." So for Alicent to lose control or lose her shit like that in front of everybody kind of shows her true colors.
Yeah. And the only one who
Which,
really seemed happy about that was Otto Hightower.
yeah, it was a surprise to see him just pop up right back where he was originally in
Yeah.
episode 7. So at the beginning of episode 5, we saw him leave King's Landing after he was stripped at the hand of the king. He wasn't in episode 6, and then episode 7 begins, and he's the hand of the king again.
Which that makes sense. Like you strip this guy of Hand of the King because you can't trust him,
Yeah,
and then 10 years pass. And, oh, hey, I can trust you again. Like why not? Why not put? I can't remember the character's name off the top of my head. Valerian. Why not make him Hand of the King?
I'll call this. Yeah,
Yeah, Corlys. Why not make Corlys Valerian your hand?
I mean, I
That
think
makes
he's
sense.
very much on Rhaenyra's side now after last night's episode. We got pretty much the line in the sand drawn last night. After that confrontation, you saw people choose a side, particularly Daemon too.
There was that
Oh, he
scene.
definitely chose his side.
There was that scene after Alicent attacked Rhaenyra, and I think it was probably the most powerful scene of the whole series so far, where you see the two sides very clearly. Like you see House Valerian is aligning with Rhaenyra's claim, and there's that kind of that intense yet awkward staring at Alicent and her camp.
Yeah, it is the green. You're either the green or the black now.
And we got the first reference of that by Rhaenyra when she said to Daemon, she said, "I can't stomach the greens right now."
Yeah,
But I,
and that
okay.
all triggers back to Alicent, of course, wearing that green dress, which signaled that there's going to be a line drawn in the sand because green is the color of House Hightower.
Yeah. And
Um,
I never thought I'd say this, but everyone thought Aegon was an annoying little shit, but then Aemond last night.
you know, I kind of like Aemond. Like I understand why he took Vhagar. Um, he's been teased about it pretty much all his life that he doesn't have a dragon, and honestly, I'm gonna miss Titanic because in just 2 episodes he did a great job as Aegon as a spoiled little shit.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
And Aegon gets worse, people. He gets
yeah,
worse.
he does. I don't know exactly why, but I know he's gonna get worse. Um, but we got the perfect introduction to him in episode 6, where he's despicable. He doesn't really give a shit about other people. especially when he's standing in his window.
Yeah, the Tommen window, if you
It's the
will.
Tommen window, both very different, but the same window. Um, but in episode 7, we saw a little bit less of Aegon, but we saw enough of him to still think he's a despicable little shit. Like, he just gets drunker and drunker and makes a fool of himself. He's yawning during the ceremony, and points to him now because during that confrontation near the end, he's the one that drops the bombshell to King Viserys. Like, King Viserys asks, "Who told you this lie about Rhaenyra's kids' parentage?" And he's just like, "Look, everybody knows. Just look at them."
Yeah. I mean, like even Viserys knows.
Yeah, we I, we think he's known all along. He's just been voluntarily blind to it.
He doesn't want to see it.
So
He doesn't want to think ill of his daughter.
no, but surely he knows it. Everybody knows it, but they just don't want to say anything. But Aegon, being the little shit that he is, not giving a shit what anybody else thinks, is the one to just be very, very blunt about it.
He's like, yeah, everybody knows it. And and hey, we even got another wedding last night.
Yeah. But nobody died.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a very small wedding, and
But
it's difficult to know how to feel about Daemon and Rhaenyra because we know they're uncle and niece, um, and we know that the Targaryens are not shy about incest.
no, it's kind of their thing.
Yeah, but it's still awkward. But at the same time, they work so well together, and they both have a good sort of goal in mind, like to stop all this corruption that Alicent wants one of her son, or wants Aegon on the throne, even though it's rightfully hers.
Yeah. And maybe her thought was since, Laenor couldn't perform, well, then Daemon will have no problem doing that. And if Daemon can give her an heir,
A legit Targaryen heir too.
yeah, a
It's
full-blooded Targaryen.
Yeah, and it's difficult to know what Daemon wants because when this series kicked off, we just thought he wants the throne. He wants his brother's throne, or he wants a high position in court because he was the heir to the throne at one point
Yeah.
before Viserys named Rhaenyra. Then he moves on. He marries Lena. He claims Dragonstone. He moves to Pentos. Now he's with Rhaenyra. So it's difficult to know what exactly he wants because if he's with Rhaenyra, he's not going to get the throne for himself, but he is kind of going to be a king,
Yeah.
and his children are going to be in line for the throne.
Yeah. I think he and Rhaenyra end up having like 3 kids, 3 or 4 kids.
She's already got what, three?
Yeah,
With
3 boys.
not with Laenor,
She's
with
got
Harwin Strong.
she's got 3 strong boys.
Oh yes, very strong boys. And it's weird too. Like they know it. Well, the
Yeah,
older
even
one
the
knew it
kids
for
know it.
definite.
Well, at
Um,
least uh, at least Jacaerys, he knows.
yeah, he could see it, but like it's very very easy to see it too because they don't look anything like Laenor. They don't have the golden dreadlocks. That they're both pale skinned. They both have dark hair.
And
So
they look like Harwin Strong.
yeah, it's not exactly a big secret. So everybody knows it, and it's very obvious to see why everybody knows it. But at the same time, Rhaenyra does have the support of the king, who is just blatantly denying it, turning a blind eye to it, and pretty much said he will take the tongue of anybody who spreads these rumors again. Which seems like a dig at Alicent too, because surely she's not exempt from that. It,
No.
it, it was kind of a subtle way of saying shut the fuck up about this.
And we got that classic dig from Alicent last week where she said to
Oh
Laenor,
yeah.
that Laenor, keep trying. Eventually you'll get one that looks like you.
That's the brilliance of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is the subtle digs. And going back to the beginning of episode 7, I think they opened it brilliantly with Lena's funeral, and you had all these key characters all in the same place for like the first time since probably episode 1.
Yeah.
And it was just constant tense and awkward eye contact between all these different characters.
And Daemon laughing at his wife's funeral.
Daemon, again, just like Aegon, really, just not giving a shit what anybody else thinks.
Like, if I didn't know any better, I would think Daemon was Aegon's father. Like, Aegon is acting
Yeah.
Daemon.
If we didn't know any better, yeah.
But yeah,
And
I'd
there's
say now the chessboard is set. You know, pieces are on the board.
yeah. Um the High Towers have made it clear they want the throne.
Oh yeah.
And like we said in the last episode, Viserys is not long for this world. He wasn't in the trailer for the next episode, so I don't even know if he's still alive in the next episode.
Well, I thought he was gonna die as they were leaving and they were in the little carriage there. Like I thought that was it. I was like, okay, yeah, he's dead here.
Yeah. And
But
again, the subtle things in episode 6, they didn't really make a big point out of it, but you could see that he's missing an arm.
oh yeah. And like if we go by the Game of Thrones logic, like Ned Stark didn't die in the season 1 finale. He died in like the second to last.
Yeah.
We've
I've
got
always thought the penultimate episodes of Game of Thrones were the more impactful than the season finales. Like, Battle of the Bastards was episode 9. I think the Battle of Hardhome was episode 9. The Battle of Winterfell was episode 9. Ned died in episode 9. So, like, the big things happen just before the end of the season, and then the last episode kind of wraps things up and sets you up for the next season. So,
yeah.
if he can make it another 2 episodes, then I think that's when we lose Viserys episode 9.
I think so. I think he'll be in it'll be the second to last, and I think the season's gonna end. It's gonna be like a simultaneous crowning where they're gonna crown Aegon and Rhaenyra at the same time. Rhaenyra at Dragonstone, Aegon at King's Landing.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm not sure how much time we're jumping in the next episode. I think it's only a few years because the kids don't look much older.
No, I know it's a different actor for Aegon. I think it's the same for Aemon though. Aemon, no, I think he's changing
Yeah,
too.
he's aged up. He seems to have aged up more than Aegon in the next episode.
But we'll see. I mean,
And
we'll see.
yeah, and like you said, if we didn't know any better, we'd swear Daemon was Aegon's father. But slightly more grown up, Aemond looks a lot like
Yeah.
Daemon. If we didn't know any better.
And the interesting thing is going to be how is Viserys going to react to the news that not only is Laenor dead, but that Daemon and Rhaenyra got married without his permission.
Yeah, maybe that's now why we're not going to see him much in the next episode, or seemingly not going to see him much, because this might just finish him off.
Like you know he's not going to be happy.
No, but again, it's as if Rhaenyra can do no wrong in his eyes. It's like
Yeah,
she has caused him nothing but headaches, but he is constantly protecting her,
it's his kid.
taking her side. Yeah,
He's a defender.
and he's not budging on the fact that she's his heir to the throne, which is great, which is admirable. But I wonder what Laenor's fake death is going to do to the relationship between Viserys and the Valyrians, and also between Rhaenyra and the Valyrians, because they hatched that plot to make it appear as though Rhaenyra was killed, and I believed it right up until we saw him right in that very last few seconds. That they don't care if they get the blame for it or if people suspect that they were involved, even the Valyrians, because Rhaenyra's point was they're going to fear what we could do if this is what they think we have done.
Exactly. And like Rhaenyra she took a hard left turn. Like she's not fucking around anymore.
No, she again, she's had one goal right from the beginning, and she is moving very many pieces in her favor towards that claim. And like we said, it's an awkward unity, but it's a powerful unity between her and Daemon.
It is. And we got to remember that, I really can't think Viserys is going to be too thrilled because he already said no to the marriage once.
Yeah, at least Daemon had the decency to ask him the first time.
Now Rhaenyra's just like, hey, yeah, let's solidify our claim. And like, does she really love Daemon, or is it because she just wants, to solidify her claim? Because she knows that if Viserys dies and she takes the throne, there's going to be questions regarding the legitimacy. Aegon is a legitimate Targaryen.
Yeah.
If Daemon can give Rhaenyra a child, a male child, that's a legitimate heir. So people are going to see it and they're going to think, oh, okay, she's got a legitimate heir. Okay, we'll go with her.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and there's also lust. I think lust is a big
Oh, yeah.
part of it. I mean, let's not forget, Daemon pretty much opened her eyes to her sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
Opened
He
several
opened
things.
the door. He opened that door, and there's no closing that.
No, even if he is her uncle.
But hey, they're
Um,
Targaryens, so that's what they do.
it's
Targaryen.
okay, they're Targaryens. But yeah, the ending gave Leno his freedom. Everybody thinks he's dead, and he gets to run off with his, I don't know what the hell you want to call it, consort.
Yeah.
Um, and also apparently with a lot of money thanks to Damon. Like, is he gonna still be a player in future, like next season or the season after, or is he done? Is he gone?
I gotta think he's gone.
I mean, there's no reason for him to get back involved because the kids aren't his. He has no need of Rhaenyra because she's not his type. There's no reason for him to come back into it now.
He prefers Goose. She prefers Duck.
Yes, he prefers Goose, which is just, it seems to be the end of the Valyrian household.
Well, and there's always Bela and Rayla. There's always, Damon's twins.
Yeah, I guess. But we have to remember, of course, we don't see the Valyrians in Game of Thrones, so like,
Yeah, that was
where are we
weird
now?
that they just like because the Valerians were still around, but they never used them in the show.
No, and as they've made it very clear in this show that they are a very powerful family there, along with the Targaryens, the last of old Valyria. So it's curious what happened to House Valerian, but I'm sure we're going to find out as the show goes on.
Yeah, great 2 episodes though.
Yeah, and it's a shame really that we're going to jump again because I was really getting used to this new generation of like Aegon, Aemond, and the twins, and Jace and his brothers. They all very much had their own characteristics,
Yeah,
and they were all great new players on the board. But
I will say I do think that Rhaenyra would have had no qualms about killing Laenor, though. I don't think she would have hesitated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm undecided on that one. Like, she had no ill will towards him. They had a great arrangement that benefited both of them. Um, she, I mean, she had no real reason to kill him other than she needed him out of the way so that she could marry Daemon. So I like to think that they hatched this plot with the full intention of faking his death, rather than Daemon just pretending to kill him or have him killed.
Yeah.
But
If push came to
even,
shove, I don't think she would have hesitated.
yeah, but those last few seconds, like, so when they were hatching this plot and you saw like this plot playing over what was actually happening, they were kind of becoming villainous characters. But when you saw that final scene and you realized that Laenor is actually very much alive, you kind of got more of a human sense of them. Like, okay, maybe they're not so evil.
But yeah, I think they definitely Corlys he's definitely going to be on the side of Rhaenyra here.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he knows, or at least he finds out that Laenor isn't actually dead. Because if he goes on believing that Laenor's dead, then he's going to think Rhaenyra was involved because all of a sudden now she's with Daemon.
Like the next
It's,
day.
yeah, and it just happened to take place very shortly after his wife's funeral too. It almost seems too convenient.
Yeah, like what are those kids doing?
Those damn Targaryens. um, so how strong is pretty much off the board apart from Laris, who has very much become the new Peter Baelish.
Yeah, just when you think, they're not going to be able to top Baelish as far as like creepiness and cutthroatness, God, Larry's strong. That fucking guy.
Yeah, sneaky son of a bitch.
And like and props to the actor that plays him, but he always has like that creepy look.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the funeral service where all these different characters were making eye contact and it was tense. Um, but he was just constantly
In the
staring at
background.
Alicent because, I mean, he's got something over her now. Like he said in episode 6, that she will reward him one day. She has no choice.
Yeah. Because like all he's got to do is say what really happened at Harrenhal. Like he can place the blame on her and people will believe him.
Yeah. And even if he doesn't care whether he lives or dies, all he has to say is, well, she put me up to it.
Yeah. Or he can lay the blame at her father's hands too.
Yeah. But Alicent is becoming, she's unraveling more and more as the show goes on. And I really didn't think that she'd become this much of a villain in the
No.
series. Like, I knew she was going to clash with Rhaenyra, but like we said before, the big time jumps over the first 5 episodes. Um, Emily Carey did such a great job of making Alicent a sympathetic character. Like, you felt sorry for her for those first 5 episodes, and then she grew up. 10 years passed, and she's just become a bitch.
Yeah, and I kind of blame her father in that regards. Like he left her isolated, and he kind of told her. He said, when Rhaenyra takes over, what do you think she's gonna do? Like
Yeah.
she's gonna take out, her. And would Rhaenyra have done that? Maybe.
Well, I mean, Otto has been plotting all of this right from the beginning. He's the one that sent Alicent to King Viserys' room after
Pimped
Emma
her
died.
out. He pimped her out.
He pimped out his daughter. Yeah. He's been playing the long game.
Oh yeah. To me, he's very much the Tywin Lannister of this series.
Yeah, he knows what he wants, and he's the one putting all the pieces on the table, even if the other characters don't realize it.
So I've got to imagine, knowing a little bit about where this is gonna go, I got to imagine probably next season we're gonna see Winterfell again.
Yeah.
But is it gonna look the same, or are they gonna kind of change things around to make it look more into what Martin's vision is?
I mean, I would hope they don't change it. Like, Winterfell is pretty iconic in the Game of Thrones series.
And they
Um,
still have the sets, so
yeah, I mean, I think they burned some of them, but sets can be rebuilt.
oh yeah. There's still the Titanic Studios in Belfast.
Yeah. Um, so we mentioned the next episode, Viserys not appearing in the trailer. What we do see, however, is Otto Hightower pretty much assuming temporary command. He's interim king, if you will.
Yeah, kind of like how
Um,
Ned Stark was in season one.
yeah. Which just begs the question, like, what does happen to Viserys in the next episode?
Like,
If
is he
he's
dead and they're trying to hide it?
good point, or if he's just literally getting worse because he's very, very literally falling apart.
I believe he's got leprosy.
Yeah, that's what I heard he had. They haven't actually said in the show, but I think Paddy Considine said in an interview that that's what is affecting King Viserys' leprosy.
And props to
Which,
Paddy Considine. He's been amazing.
oh, he's been incredible. And as the King's look gets decays more and more, I think it just brings out more of Paddy's acting chops.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was watching Hot Fuzz the other day, and it's hard to when House of Dragon started. I looked at him as as one of the indies. Now I'm looking at him and I'm seeing King Viserys. And it amazed me with that movie how many people from Game of Thrones were in that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Cornetto trilogy is like cream of the crop of British actors.
We got Rory McCann,
Yeah.
and
Jim Broadbent was in it too. He was High Maester.
I miss the Hound.
Such a great character that honestly I never hated the Hound. No, like a lot of people said, you went from hating him to loving him. I never hated the Hound. He was a great character. Like
And he didn't change up. Like he was one of the few characters that he never changed. Like he was very upfront. Like this is who I am.
yeah. And
Like me
even
or
though he
fuck.
was a brutal henchman for the king, who was a piece of shit,
Oh yeah,
he he did try to protect Sansa, and he did kind of stand up to Joffrey.
yeah. Like at Battle Blackwater Bay, he basically is like, yeah, no, I'm out.
Yeah, and even with like Tyrion, like slapping Joffrey, like the Hound was like,
He's
"Well, the
not gonna
king's not
like
going to
that.
forget that one."
And he just said, if he does forget, be a good dog and remind him.
Yeah.
And he killed his
Um.
brother in the end, in a way.
Oh yeah, and probably one of the best parts about season 8 was the Clegane Bowl.
Something that
Um.
we have been screaming for. And
Yeah.
so well done.
Yeah. Again, one of the few parts that was so well done. That image of them both on the staircase with the fire in the background was just awesome. We haven't really had a character like the Hound in House of the Dragon yet, who is just brutal and open and honest, and what you see is what you get. I mean, it probably could have been Harwin Strong, but he didn't last very long.
No. And it's a shame. It really is a shame.
Yeah, I think he was well on his way to becoming a fan favorite. but we
Was
lost him in 2 episodes.
I've been rewatching Thrones, and like we have events that we have seen so far that have been referenced. Like if you remember this episode where Tywin Lannister is at Harrenhal, like he references the fire where Harwin and his father were burned alive. Like
Yeah, again,
he
that's
references.
subtlety. There's probably a lot of hints in Game of Thrones about the Targaryen history that we didn't really pay attention to when watching Game of Thrones because it didn't seem all
Relevant.
that relevant at the time. It was interesting, but it was just like passing conversation. But if you were to go back and watch Game of Thrones now and you literally paid attention to every conversation, there's probably going to be a lot of spoilers about House of the Dragon, which is
I mean,
why I try not to go back to Game of Thrones until House of the Dragon's over.
which people, if you want to see how the show ends, it's on YouTube. Just you gotta just do some looking if you want to see it.
I mean, they have changed a couple of things, small details like
Yeah,
Lena's death. In the book, she wasn't burned by Vhagar. She gave birth to a stillborn and just pretty much died of exhaustion.
yeah.
I don't know what other deaths have been changed or are going to be changed, but I like the fact that they're changing small details like that, but still with the same outcome,
I
because it's still
believe,
going to catch people by surprise who have read the book or
I
know the history.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they didn't come out and outright say that Harwin was the father. Whereas in the show, they basically like, yeah, it's him.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Like that whole line was like, Aegon is like, he's like, Dad, like we all know.
Yeah, they're like, use your eyes, look at him.
Yeah, like come on, like are you fucking blind, old man? I know you're falling apart, but like, come on, look at him.
And I think it was, you could almost see like an inner smile on Otto Hightower because he was like, shit, finally somebody said it who can't be punished by the king because it's his grandson.
I
Like
mean,
when Otto said it, he got banished.
he could
Took him
say
10
it.
years to
Like,
come back.
I mean, Viserys wouldn't do it, but I mean, if Viserys wanted to take a hard right turn, like he could send Aegon to the wall or even have him executed.
Yeah, that's true. He could. But like we keep saying, Viserys is just too much of a nice guy and he just wants everybody to get along. But it's
And
not going to happen.
nice guys do not make good rulers.
No. And apparently
Damon even,
Targaryens do not make
Damon
good
even said
siblings.
Damon even said it. He said, because Rhaenyra even said, I won't rule by fear. And he said there needs to be a level of fear. They need to fear you and what you will do.
Yeah, there's that old line, let them fear you so long as they respect you. I believe somebody said that to Daenerys. May have been Tyrion.
Yeah, like there needs to be a level of fear. Like you can let them love you, but at the same time, they've got to fear you.
Yeah. And it certainly ended up that way with Daenerys. Her armies loved her, and she wanted the people to love her, but she just took a right turn right at the end and became
The Mad
too
Queen,
dangerous even for Jon.
and he didn't want it.
No, he didn't want
She was his queen.
it. We got a few, apart from Vhagar, we got a few more glimpses of the dragons in this last episode when they were at Driftmark, and you just saw like I think it was 3 or 4 dragons just flying overhead, just casually.
I believe we got
Which,
Sunfire, our first look at him.
yeah, um, hopefully that kind of signals that we're going to see a lot more dragon action as the season comes to its final 3 episodes now.
Oh yeah, and I think the Dance with Dragons is gearing up.
Yeah, and I believe the actual war went on for a few years, so we could get like Dance of the Dragons beginning in this season and still continuing through the next couple of seasons. I think they're
I
going for 4 seasons.
That's the last I heard is like they want to do like 10 episodes each, 4 seasons. So
which is just right, I think.
I think that's about right. Like you don't want to drag it on too long, but and I think the beneficial thing will be that there won't be any more time jumps after this
Yeah.
last one.
We may get one slightly between season 1 and 2, just for when the kids like become adults, because right
Yeah.
now I think in the next episode they're going to be like young adults. They
Like
don't have much more growing up to do.
I think right now Aegon I think is like 13 or 14. Like I think he's the age now that Rhaenyra was in the beginning.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we know there's not going to be any more time jumps this season, so I think that should be about right. We set it up enough. Let's get the preview of episode 8 and see what's coming next on House of the Dragon. Again, you can raise your banners for us at ThroneZone UK. Give the channel a like, follow us on social media, of course. Thank you for joining us once again. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you next week to discuss this.
As hand, I speak with the king's voice on this and all other matters.
Tomorrow the High Towers land their first blow.
Those vipers rule in my father's name.
To King's Landing, then. The sea snake has taken a grave wound in battle in the Stepstones. Who will take the Driftwood throne?
The crown cannot stand strong if the House of the Dragon remains divided.
This is a matter of blood, not ambition.
This is a trap.
Nephews? The threat of war looms.